Just checking Kelly. Hey, everybody.
Hey.
Welcome back to Homeschool Radio on bostonfreeradio.com.
This is our second official show. Can you hear?
Can I hear myself? No, I can't.
How about now? Can you talk?
Yes. Now I can hear myself.
I think you're that one.
Okay. So I'm Lauren.
I'm Carrie.
Welcome to our second show ever.
On Boston Free Radio. Yeah, it's our second show.
So this is a show about homeschooling in the Boston area. We have a lot of ideas for this show. It's new, and we're hoping to keep it up and expand. So, Carrie, do you want to tell me a little bit about yourself?
Sure. I've got two daughters, ages almost 11 and 7, and we've been homeschooling since the beginning, except for 1 year when they both went to preschool here in Somerville. We always knew that would just be the 1 year that they would homeschool. So, yeah. So we've been doing it ever since. And what about you?
Okay, great. I have a son who is 8 and a daughter who's 3. And we experimented with kindergarten, but we had thought about homeschooling before we went to kindergarten. And then after kindergarten, we decided we wanted to give it a try and see how it goes. And so this is our 3rd year homeschooling. And so one of the things that we did last spring was to do a tour of Somerville Community Access Television, and Boston Free Radio lives at the same location. And so we got a tour of the radio station too. And I think we both kind of had a little spark of an idea, and little by little we have gone through the process of starting our show.
Yeah, I was really excited. I feel like we just need to explain ourselves. I mean, I would love for homeschoolers to listen, but also I want people who don't homeschool, who don't know anything about it, who have questions. I want them to listen and call in. And by the way, the number here is 617-454-4BFR. And that's the number here in the studio. If you have any questions at all or comments, just give us a call. Also, you can contact us by Skype, Boston Free Radio. And we'll be here until 8 o'clock tonight.
Cool.
So, Lauren, did you do anything over the holidays? Do you guys do school like between holidays, or do you think about that at all?
It's such a busy time. So I guess we don't formally do all that much school. We live in a triple decker, and my niece lives on the 3rd floor, and so she kind of has time off from school too. So it doesn't really leave a lot of room with all the activities that are going on. But I do try to involve the kids in preparations when it's appropriate. We, go shopping for each other, and my kids were really excited to shop for, family members and friends this year. And but yeah, as far as like sticking to the real routine, it's pretty challenging.
Yeah. And I think it's fine. I mean, homeschooling, we're not bound by any schedule.
Absolutely.
And I always have to remind myself of that. I mean, even after vacation's over and we're home, it's hard to get back into it.
It sure is.
And
we had 2 productive days, and then
yeah,
my niece was actually off today because of the cold temperatures. She's at private school, and so it was pretty much a wash.
Yeah,
but we tried a little bit. But yeah, it's I think like anybody, it's hard to sort of get in that routine again after all that disruption and craziness and sugar. And, I mean, it's like there's always so much to do in general, just, balancing life and food and cleanliness with education.
Yeah, well, there's the
and then you just
cleanup, too.
throw in that pile of extra stuff to do around the holidays. So you can be a big ball of stress, or you can try to let it wash over you and give up things, or let things go and try and make it as pleasant as possible, because that's really the idea. But I don't know, with our commercialized holidays these days, it's really hard to avoid being stressed out.
Yeah, no, you're right. You're absolutely right. We felt it. And I think as my kids get older and wiser, and the other day I tried to start school after a long break, and I was asked, well, who says we have to start? All right, when did you get wise? But I think we're going to listen to a song. Is the singer for that band. They used to play at Toad every Wednesday evening. They play a lot of songs from the 40s, specifically a band called the Prisonaires. And the Prisonaires were a band from prison. And they were really good, and they decided to record an album. So I don't know if Sirleen is one of those or not, but it's they're a really fun band. So anyway, we're on Boston Free Radio, talking about homeschooling. This is Homeschool Radio. Our number here is 617-454-4BFR, and the Skype is Boston Free Radio. Another way to get a hold of us, if you have any questions or comments, is on Facebook. There's a group called Homeschool Radio. Feel free to join and send us any comments.
Also ideas, happenings, events, classes, and so forth.
Yes, right.
Also advice, as if we are authorities, but that's okay.
Yes, exactly.
We're a community, and we're here to help each other.
That's true. And speaking of the community, there are about, how many would you say? So at least several hundred people in the Boston area that homeschool.
Absolutely.
Lots of us.
Mm-hmm. And as the weather turns colder, which we noticed today, there's still opportunities to get together. There's lots of opportunities in the area, and the best way to really find out about these are to maybe join groups. I know there are several groups that we belong to. Homeschooling Together, Yahoo group that we belong to has a very active community and a long list of members. Mass Home Learning is another one, and
MA Homeschooler is one, and then there's some that are specific to whatever curriculum. I know that my husband is on a list called CK Homeschooler, which is core knowledge.
Oh, good.
And I know there's one for classical education somewhere. Oh, and there's one for unschooling, I think. I don't know the address, but, depending on how you homeschool, you can find people like-minded through those lists.
Absolutely. And I know there are also a lot of town or locale-specific groups, too. So we have one in Somerville MA Homeschoolers. It's also a Yahoo group. So if you are in Somerville, you're welcome to join. Or if you're kind of on the border, even if you're not, but we're going to discuss things that are specific to Somerville. So, and you can always start your own, too.
That's true.
What did you do on this cold day today?
What did we do? Oh, okay, so this morning we did have school. We did math. We did Latin. I read to my younger child for a long time while the older one was doing Latin.
That sounds great.
It was really fun. Mm-hmm. It's one of my favorite times of day.
Nice.
Is when I'm reading to the younger one and the other one is doing something. Because we have this routine. We go and grab a book, go in the day bed with a blanket, and we just curl up and we just read to her. And I absolutely love it.
That sounds great.
It's so relaxing.
We waited for our water to unfreeze.
No. Seriously?
Yes, we have our kitchen sink is facing the wall.
Oh.
And it's new construction, but apparently it was done in a way that was not very insulative.
No.
And so every winter when the wind chill goes down, we have to open up the cabinets and turn on the heater and pray and run the water.
Use a hairdryer?
I have used a hairdryer in the past, but and then, sometimes it still happens anyway. And so, turn on the oven, run the heater on the pipes and hope for the best. But, I don't know, about lunchtime, it started coming through. And so, phew, no blown pipes this time, burst pipes. So we have another song coming up in just a few minutes. But again, our number is 617-454-4237. That's for BFR. We are Skype at Boston Free Radio. We're so glad you could join us here at Homeschooling Radio. Enjoy.
Every Tuesday at 3, something special happens on Boston Free Radio. Why, it's Toppers with your host, Gil. Toppers, spinning the tunes that today's youth demand, from Justin Bieber to Lady Gaga to the Fleetwoods, and, on occasion, Hoagie Carmichael. If you missed the program, you can check out the archives at Toppers Radio, that's one word, .blogspot.com. Toppers.
Okay, welcome back to BostonFreeRadio.com. This is Homeschool Radio, Thursday nights, every other night.
Every other week.
Every other week, yes. Not every other night. Sorry about that. So we're here to discuss topics homeschooling. We have lots of ideas. And so why don't we discuss some of our ideas for the show for a little while?
Yeah.
So, we're just starting, a little bit shy yet, a little bit just getting to get our feet under us with how to run a radio show. But as it gets hopefully a listenership, we want to do a lot of talking, a lot of bouncing ideas off of each other, a lot of connecting of members in the homeschooling world. A way to let people know that there are a lot of us out here.
And more coming.
We might have shows that have themes, favorite songs of your kids or something like that. And we'd even like to feature kids or members of the homeschooling community, music, poetry, writing, all kinds of stuff. You can probably advertise, our calendar events and things like that. We do have a calendar. It's being built. And so we have a lot of things that we can accomplish with this show.
That's true. And I would like to, for non-homeschoolers who are listening, to ask questions. Like I said, there's more of us coming. It's on the rise. Last I heard, the 3.5% of school-age kids in this country are homeschooled. So it doesn't sound like a whole lot, but I guess when you translate that to numbers, it's a lot. So there are a lot of us around. And I think that people are going to have more and more questions as they meet homeschoolers, as they hear about them in the news. And I want to clear up any kind of misconceptions that people may have about homeschoolers.
Another thing that we can discuss is difference among districts, because where you live can make a difference in how you go about it. For example, in Somerville, something that Carrie's been working on is investigating how homeschoolers can participate in the school district. And at this time, we are not able at all to participate in the school district, for example, band or activities, sports, art class, and things like that. And that's not true of all the districts in Massachusetts. Some are very welcoming to homeschoolers to participate in a class here and there, or band or athletics and things like that. So we can talk about those kind of things. We'd love to hear input from people about, how they go about. Do they report? Do they report at the end of the year? How do you submit your education plan and that kind of thing? And as we all have seen, sometimes we have knee-jerk reactions to events in the nation that change laws in different parts of the country. So, there are endless topics to discuss in the homeschooling world, and like Carrie said, it's growing. So here we are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think that we're going to be hearing about it more in the news. The New York Times recently had an article that we could probably discuss more on a future show, but the article really brought to light the issues around homeschooling and reporting specifically, and the regulations, if there are any. Some states don't have any. Some states, you homeschool, they let you, fine. They don't ask any questions. Other states require tests and grades, and they watch over very closely, and they mandate what subjects you have to teach, and then there's some in the middle. So I think over the next, 20 years or so, I think all of that's going to be changing. And I don't know in what direction, but I think it's going to be in the news, especially with people not happy with the Common Core requirements. I think that's pushing a lot of people out of the public schools. So we'll just have to wait and see where that goes. But on this show, we will be reporting on news stories about homeschooling. And a little bit later in the show, I will talk about the governor of Colorado, who recently said some disparaging things about homeschoolers. So,
oh, no, I can't wait to hear. That'll be right after this next song. Thanks for listening. All right, welcome back to Homeschool Radio on BostonFreeRadio.com. Our studio phone, again, is 617-454-4BFR. That's 4237. Or you can call us at Skype at Boston Free Radio. So, Carrie, before the break, you mentioned this article about Colorado, and I have to admit, I do not know what you're talking about. Could you elaborate on that?
Yes, I will. This is just this is an article from the from onenewsnow.com. I'm not sure where they're located, but this article about the governor of Colorado, John Hickenlooper, has proclaimed that only public schools can educate children to be productive members of society, implying that parents are incapable of educating kids. Quote, government should do what people individually can't do or can't do well themselves, the Democrat said in a speech at a luncheon last week. Educating our young people, making sure our roads are designed and built properly, making sure our communities are safe. So, the Homeschool Legal Defense Association got involved because that didn't sit well with them, and they're asking him to apologize. And it could just be a matter of education. It's just surprising that the governor of a state has that opinion of homeschoolers. He probably just doesn't know much about how to homeschool. He doesn't know any. But to publicly say that is just it's very insulting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. It seems like when you bring up the fact that you homeschool, people have knee-jerk reactions. Mm-hmm. And you wonder where they really formulated their opinions about homeschooling, because many of them don't seem to know a lot about it or know people who do it, or, they think that you're just, your kids probably go to school just like everybody else's kids. And when they find out, they just, I don't know, they see you in a different light.
There really is no reference point for that. There's nothing in our culture really to let people know what it is, unless you know someone.
Right.
But I really do think it's going to change. I actually, to be honest with you, I didn't read a whole lot of homeschooling news. Mm-hmm. But recently I got on a Google alert. So I've been getting articles. And I don't get them every day. There's not a whole bunch of them.
Yeah.
But there was one in the New York Times, which kind of cast a shadow on homeschooling life. And I didn't like it. But I'm thinking the more homeschoolers that we have, there will be more and more articles.
Yeah.
And maybe they'll tell the truth. Maybe we can actually, and maybe this radio show can help get the word out that we're not freaks. We are valuable members of society. Our kids learn maybe even more than they do at school. Possibly
not. Some of us probably are freaks, but it's probably kind of like a cross section, like the entirety of society.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know why people have this aspersion to, hanging out with your kids and teaching them like you did when they were really little. So it is an issue, and I know that there are public figures that have, said some unfriendly things, and so hopefully we can turn people's minds, and as time goes on.
Like I just wanted to refute this article that came out in the New York Times because I know a lot of people read it, and the title is "More Pupils, Less Regulation," and it does raise some good points. There are going to be more homeschoolers. So, should there be some regulation? Should there be some, maybe from the state watching us?
Right.
I mean, if there's going to be more of us, and in some way they kind of are responsible for educating our kids along with us. Right. So, where do you draw the line? But it's just that this article was so public, and it just didn't paint a nice picture. And they use examples of kids that failed. Right. And there's just so many success stories they could have picked. Right. But that's not the way they wanted it to go. Right. They wanted this article to shed, they just wanted it to seem like they want more regulation because of these stories that they picked.
I see.
It's not good. I just didn't like it that much.
Well, I mean, I think it takes many different kinds of people, and there are potentials for, when people aren't being sort of overseen, just like there is potential for a child that's in public school to have, not a great situation at home. There are people in public school who have, social issues or mental issues, just like there are people who are, who are schooled at home too. So
yeah, that's true.
I don't know. I guess we're just people too.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. So should we have the same regulations that other schools have then?
I don't know. I mean, I think that homeschooling can be so different. I mean, I know so many people who use all different styles, and if you listen to Peter Gray, who's at Boston University, I want to say, he really supports unschooling and says that, a lot of these kids are pretty successful in life. And, by the time they reach college age, they aren't burned out from 12 years of school, and they've self-directed, and they've chosen subjects to explore, and so they're actually pretty well adapted to university because they're eager. So
we explored that end of the spectrum of homeschooling, and I know we haven't mentioned this on the show about different styles of homeschooling, but
another topic, another day.
Unschooling is one of them, but it just takes a lot of faith to know that at the end your child will explore all the subjects that he or she needs to know in order to be successful, and to do it pretty much on their own. Although, correct me if I'm wrong, I think you do a little bit more unschooling than we do. I know you do have workbooks and curriculum for certain things, but for unschooling,
yes,
you let your child run with whatever interests.
Certain things, certain things. Yeah, we definitely do some, I don't know, I guess I just haven't been able to wrap my head around math. Not, you have to kind of, in my opinion, repeat like study it, learn it, memory. But other subjects, my son just seems to be fascinated by certain things and willing to do work in that vein. So I've tried to get out of his way, but at the same time, I haven't done it for 30 years. I mean, does a teacher who's taught second grade or elementary school for 30 years, does she know, the range of the successes of the children that she's taught? Maybe not. So John Holt, a famous homeschooling person, said to trust children, nothing could be more simple or more difficult. Difficult because to trust children, we must first learn to trust ourselves, and most of us were taught as children that we could not be trusted. And it looks like we're getting a call, so hang on just a minute. Hello, you're on the air. Hello?
Hello.
Hey,
Hi.
We're running out of time. We'll get right back to you, okay?
Can you hang on the line there?
Sure.
Who's this?
This is Joel.
Hi, Joel. How are you today?
Good. How are you?
Good. Hang on just a second. We're back. We're back on Boston Free Radio. BostonFreeRadio.com. This is Homeschooling Radio. You can call us at 617-454-4BFR or Skype us at Boston Free Radio, and we have a caller. Caller, are you on the air?
I am.
Okay.
So you've been listening?
I have. It's been, I love what you're doing so far. So my idea, or the reason I called in is because I think one of the things you guys could do is do a homeschooler spotlight every so often. And I just happen to have one, which is a friend of our daughter's, who organized a little rally on Monday.
I think she would love to be on the show.
Well, I'm sure. Well, let's just say that you bring her on the show at your own risk. You might not have her on the show after that.
All right.
All I'm going to say is that this is a young lady who is 11 years old, and her parents took her to a Black Lives Matter rally, and she got inspired to organize her own rally. And so she called the city fathers or whoever it was and started organizing a rally, and she started publicizing it. And Carrie, you probably can also, say what happened, but she really did a fine job.
She really did. She her mom helped her through the process of who to call, and even when the town told her that she would be responsible for $200 to $300 for a police detail, she went to her mom, and her mom said, nope, that's not true. So they contacted the ACLU, and they called the city and said, you cannot do this.
Oh, my. And
they got the fee waived. So she learned a lot about the process of free speech, I guess, and how to say what you want to say.
That's really cool. Did you guys went to the rally?
The girls and I went.
And I heard that there were some people organizing sort of an anti-rally. Mm-hmm. And was that present, or how did that go?
No. They moved to a different location, I believe. They weren't there when I was there. I did hear that there was one person in the audience with a sign that, I forget exactly what it said, but it was clear that they were on the other side of the issue.
Black lives don't matter.
Takes all kinds, I guess.
No, I think it said all lives matter.
Ah, right.
But the whole thing was just very impressive, and she spoke, and it was a very short speech, but she thanked everybody for coming, and it was just really impressive.
And I think the thing, the reason I was so impressed is not just that she did it, and she did most of it on her own with some guidance from her mom. But, I mean, this is the kind of thing that, I think as homeschoolers, one of the things we try to do is try to, foster independence in our children in a way that public schools don't. And this is, I think, a prime example of that.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I agree. I totally agree. I mean, her parents are the kind of parents who don't get in her way. They know that she's after something, and they help her get it. And it's a beautiful thing to see. But it was cold.
So speaking of independence, I'm going to get back to cooking dinner for our children. So
thank you.
Thanks, Jewel, for calling in.
Okay.
Have a good evening.
I'll talk to you later.
All right. Bye.
Right,
Thank you.
Care.
So if there's other people who have questions or comments, we're at 617-454-4BFR and on Skype, Boston Free Radio. And I'm Carrie, and this is Lauren next to me.
Hello, everybody out there.
And
Thank you so much for listening to our show, Homeschool Radio, on bostonfreeradio.com. All right, welcome back to Homeschool Radio on bostonfreeradio.com. Again, you can call us at 617-454-4BFR. That's 4237, or you can call us on Skype at Boston Free Radio. So coming up, especially if you are a homeschooler currently, or if you're interested in homeschooling, is a movie called Class Dismissed. And it's a documentary that follows one family, mm-hmm. right? And that is going to be at the Capitol Theater in Arlington on January 22nd, which is a Thursday. And it's at 7:30 at night. And I believe if you go to a HEM website, maybe you could find a link to find discount tickets prior to the show. HEM is the Association
Advocates for Home Education in Massachusetts.
Very good.
Yeah.
And so
hem.info is their website.
All right. And so you can find all kind of great resources there aside from a link to the movie. So
that can I say a word about that site?
Sure.
Because when we were first starting, that site was valuable to us.
Too.
Really. I mean, it has the Charles decision in plain language. It also has it like the actual script, or what do you call that? Transcript.
The legal
legal document. But it outlines it in pretty simple language.
Yes.
And it really says what our rights are as Massachusetts citizens.
And lots of sample documents. I referred to their sample documents for my ed plan.
Us too.
I referred to their website for ways to report at the end of the year, and if it's even necessary, which I guess in some places it really isn't. And they even have, if you poke around enough, they have a history curriculum available for free. Yes, they do. And lots of book references and stuff. Huh. Lots of it's specific to Massachusetts.
When you said whether you have to report or not, you mean in Massachusetts?
Mm-hmm. At the end of the year.
I didn't know you couldn't. I thought you had to.
Mm-hmm. But I've heard a lot of people who don't at the end of the year.
They get in trouble.
So I don't know. I mean, it probably depends on a school district too. You know, some people, I guess some districts I think have bigger fish to fry, and others maybe they just want to make sure you stay in their loop.
Okay.
You know, so
at the end of the academic year, or
yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, we always go in August.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay.
So do you go and do you turn in your ed plan at the same time you do your end of year report?
We do.
Nice.
We bring everything at once. And so, we don't have to. In Somerville, in fact, it's part of the Charles decision. You don't physically have to go to meet with the school department or the principal or whoever it is in your town.
Right.
But you do have to send in letter of intent and your ed plan. We always go.
Mm-hmm.
And I like knowing who they are, and I like for them to know who we are. But more importantly, it's the only time I get to show off.
Nice.
And I figured I didn't know that in the beginning, but the first year we went, I called ahead to make the appointment, and I said, should we bring anything? And they said, no, she's 6. It doesn't really matter this time. But I did anyway. And we had our conversation. Like 10 minutes lasted. And then the man looked at me, and he saw the bag next to me with all the papers and the books. And he said, did you bring something? And I said, yeah, I just, and so I brought out the books, and he was leafing through them. He was being so nice about it. He's like, oh, this is really great work. I mean, she was in first grade. She was printing letter A.
Oh, and, right.
At the end of it, we left, and my husband said, did you have fun? And I said, what do you mean? He said, showing off. I was not showing. Okay, maybe a little.
Maybe a little.
But I figured out if your kid is in school, you have access to the teacher.
Right.
And you get feedback.
Yes. You get grade reports.
Grade reports. Mm-hmm. And we don't get any of that.
No.
And so, yeah, I guess I was showing off a little bit. I get 15 minutes a year.
That's awesome. It's so nice that you think about it that way. I think, in Somerville, they want to keep us on the radar, but we haven't really noticed we have not noticed an adversarial relationship with the school district.
No, so. I haven't felt that at all. I really haven't.
Yeah. So, I don't know. Somerville is a pretty good place. There's so many places that you can get to and all that. Anyway, we're going to listen to a song. We'll catch you in a moment. Welcome back to Boston Free Radio. This is the Homeschool Radio Show. We are at 617-454-4BFR, or you can Skype us at Boston Free Radio. We also have a Facebook page. It's Homeschool Radio. And so we're open to members, and we can use all kinds of ideas, questions for advice, ideas for activities, and so forth. And Carrie and I were just talking about what to do in the winter. So one of the things that's happening on the calendar that we know of is a weekly games day, and that happens at the Robbins Library in Arlington, and the actual time slot is 12:45 to 2:45. That's at the Robbins Library on Wednesdays.
That's really fun. It's it's all ages. Mm-hmm. Bring whatever games you want.
Yep, it's in the basement of the library. So if you take the elevator or the stairs way down, there's a big room down there, and tables and chairs and a little sink and trash can and all that stuff. So
I think I want to go on Wednesday.
All right.
Yeah, I think I want to do that.
We're going skiing.
Oh, you are?
Sort of. Well, what we do is I have an aunt and uncle who they do timeshares, and they come out every winter and usually invite us to come along. Actually, they always invite us to come along. Last year, my uncle got sick, and so we went by ourselves. But so we'll probably go up and huddle in the condo for a little while. I'll do some snowboarding, but my son is decided he really doesn't want to do that stuff. He doesn't. Okay. I've pushed him to take skiing lessons, snowshoeing, ice skating. He's begrudging, and I have finally allowed myself to let this go because it's more about me than about him. So, but luckily my aunt is willing to watch them, so hopefully I can get a few runs down the slope.
Yeah.
We're going to Vermont, and ironically, there is another group. I don't really know them that well, but they're going to Vermont the same week next week.
The Mountain one?
No. This is a different group that's going up for the week.
Okay.
And I think some people are doing 3 days. Some people are doing 4 or 5. And they have a big discount, but because we just coincidentally are going at the same time, we don't get the discounts that the homeschoolers get. But that's okay, because I find that I have to really just plan things, kind of at the last minute, because we have to judge by the weather. We don't like to buy things ahead of time because we end up wasting money because we can't use the tickets, or, somebody doesn't want to do it, or somebody doesn't feel good. So I don't like to plan it too much in advance, but hopefully we'll bump into them, because the facility that we're going to, they have swimming pools and hot tubs, and they have this, the last time we went last year, they had this giant inflated building that was full of like, yeah, it was like a temporary building, but it was like it was like a big blow up building, and it had all these bouncy houses and
Seriously?
like, yes. And like, it was like a mini golf, only it was like a table. So I can't remember if it was like ping pong or
Golf
something.
on the table?
I don't know. I looked at it and I took pictures, but I had never quite got what you do there. But and then they have tubing and stuff, and so I'm not sure if my daughter's old enough to go tubing, but we'll keep busy.
Yeah.
And they have a giant tub in the condo, which
really?
seems
like a
to be
jacuzzi one?
yes, like the highlight, of the trip. And this is not something that I could do myself, but my aunt, interestingly, was a school teacher, and she retired, at least probably 15 years ago, and she had homeschoolers in her art class. So she taught in a fairly well-off district in Pennsylvania. So she was very frugal and saved a lot of money, and so now they are able to travel quite a bit, and they have lots of timeshares, and they never ask us for money to stay with them.
And because you homeschool, you can just pick up and go.
We can just pick up and go, and in fact, they're coming back in February.
Really?
Yeah, to a place in Massachusetts. So yeah, that is a really interesting facet about homeschooling, is being able to travel outside of school vacations. And for us, it's way more affordable. When we were in school, we couldn't afford the plane tickets and the hotel rates and the ski lift rates during school vacation week, because it's always the holiday, the highest rate. So another thing that's great about homeschooling and that you can do in the winter is visit museums, indoor museums, and they're really nice and quiet. Usually, maybe you might see a school group come in.
Yeah.
But then you also realize that you have 20 kids trying to get the attention of the facilitator at the museum, whereas your 2 kids or your group of maybe 5 or 6 kids can really touch base with this person and get a very meaningful interaction with the museum staff.
Yeah.
So that's really great. But another thing that we do, and we're hoping to have some friends come over, is sledding.
Oh,
so we like to sled, and there are a few little secret spots around Somerville, believe it or not. And
Behind
anyway,
the library.
Yes.
Powder House. That's a good one. That's
Powder
a good place.
House is a great place.
Yep.
So we're kind of winding up, it looks like here. We have a song coming up and a PSA, and we're done for the night. And we're so happy for our few listeners out there. We're hoping to add more as time goes on. And again, we're available. We love to hear from you. Phone calls, Boston Free Radio, 617-454-4BFR, or Skype us at Boston Free Radio on our next show. And
which is in 2 weeks from tonight, 7 o'clock.
Thanks for listening. Have a good night.